We are at the precipice where I believe the entertainment industry is the canary in the coal mine, or one of. There's other industries that are similarly in very dire straits, but I won't talk about them because those are not my industries. This is my industry. We are crossing into this new world. All of us together as a world are crossing into this new era where AI is getting so good. And robotics that the AI will go into is getting so good that in 5 years' time, we're going to have an entirely different world. And all industries are going to be insanely disrupted. And I believe that there's going to be massive unemployment, which is going to lead to UBI and things like that. Let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. But when it comes to entertainment, I firmly believe that there's two things that are going to be happening simultaneously. One of them is going to happen much quicker than the other. But let's talk about like original movies and TV shows and video games and music, right? So the studios are going to start with, well, we're going to start implementing AI to cover, menial, low-hanging fruit, low-level jobs. So as an actor, extras, right? That's the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to being an on-camera actor. Well, already in 2.5 years ago, when we all struck and fought so hard for these new contracts, that was one of the biggest things on the table. You're just going to scan a human being one time, and then you're going to use them in perpetuity to be an extra in whatever movie you want, right? It's crazy. And we fought. We're like, no, you can't do that. And the studios finally kind of backed down on that. Well, our contracts are up in like 8 months. Those contracts are only 3-year contracts. They're coming up. And when they come up for renegotiation, AI will be so good at that point that I believe the studios, we're all going to come back to the table. All the guilds and all the unions and the studios and the producers are all going to come back to the table. And the studios and the guilds and the unions are going to say, well, we demand better pay, or we demand this, or we demand that. And the studios are going to say, no, you're not going to get any of that. We technically don't even need you anymore, because if we wanted to, we could just go make a fully AI movie, which is animated, but it looks like real life. So it's, it's animated, but it's not an animated movie. And you're all out of a job. And people will kick and scream and say, no, you can't do that. Now, I don't think the studios are going to do that, because I think they're smart enough to understand that if they just did that, there would be such a massive uproar in the public, and everybody, and people will be like, it's too hard a gear shift. But they will come back and say, there are going to be some concessions you need to make. If any of you still want to have a job, you're still going to have to concede that we don't need extras anymore, and we don't need, these low-level jobs anymore. If the mid-level and high-level employees still want to have a job, you need to concede this. And after much debate and much kicking and screaming, I think people are ultimately going to concede, because we already got so hosed in the pandemic and in these last strikes. So many people are still not working right now. Our industry is imploding. And so I think that people are going to ultimately make these big compromises. Now, that's not going to immediately displace everybody in the industry, but it will start displacing lots more people. And let's say we sign another 3-year contract. Well, 3 years down the road, AI will be even like exponentially better 3 years later, because every 6 months it's exponentially better. And then 3 years later, we'll come back to the table and the studios will say, all right, well, remember those mid-level jobs that we said we weren't going to touch? Well, now we're going to touch those jobs. And the high-level artists will all be like, but you can't. And they're like, well, do you still want to have a job? Do you actually still want to work? And then those high-level people will be like, well, yeah, but you shouldn't do this. It's like, I know, but bottom lines, capitalism. And so then that will keep.
I want to play the counter though.
Okay,
this.
yeah.
So and maybe the fact is the push is going to be against the studios. In that we saw like YouTube, and a whole different class of creator, whatever word you want to use, kind of came out of that.
Yeah.
So do we not see the opportunity for non-studio? And I mean, we'll put what you're building on the sides, like
independent creators.
But independent creators to be able to, the exact thing that you just said, that fully animated, looking like that, but it's coming from a person. It's just like, it's the Zachary Levi AI movie that created this. And it's the story that they wanted to create.
That just unemployed 400 people.
or you have 400 more. So we had 98% of the country being farmers, whatever, 150 years ago. Now it's 2%, and we produce a lot more. We'll put a pin in like the food system for a second, but the point is we produce more food, right? And so isn't there the opportunity that these tools will give creative superpowers?
How much bandwidth do you have to watch anything? Take away the fact you have kids.
Right.
Just a regular person, how much bandwidth do they have?
Show here and there, right?
So if everyone and their mom is all making their own show, who's actually making any money?
But there's crap and not crap now anyway.
How do you find it?
That's a reasonable question in terms of curation and...
If you flood a market, if you like tomato soup and there's, a dozen companies that make tomato soup, it's easy enough to go look at the selection at the grocery store and be like, okay, of all these, and you can look at the ingredients and all that stuff, and you can determine which tomato soup that you like. If everyone makes tomato soup, what are you even doing?